Hello everyone, thanks for checking out my video. It's Goose coming at you with a guide on how to set up your own FluxNode. Now, this is going to be soup to nuts, start to finish, how to get things up and running, including staking your collateral in the Zelcore wallet, creating a VPS Linux server, installing FluxOS, and then starting the node from Zelcore. The beauty of the way Zelcore is set up now is if you don't want to use a desktop wallet to start your node, you don't have to. You can do it via the mobile app. So this is a really cool opportunity now to get involved. I do have to preface this though, that what we're doing with a FluxNode is a little bit more of an intermediate level computer science kind of thing. It does involve Linux and terminals and crypto, private keys, IP addresses, all that kind of stuff. But this guide should show you enough about how to get up and running. The whole point of this video really is to give you the outline. And from there, if you need help, visit us on Discord and we'll do the best we can to get you up and running. So without further ado, let's get on with it. The first thing anybody's going to need to do in order to get started with a FluxNode is download a copy of the Zelcore wallet. So come on over to the Zelcore website at zelcore.io. You can click on the Try It Now button. The wallet is available cross-platform, whether you're on Windows, Mac, Linux, or a mobile device. And that's kind of the beauty of this new setup, is that you no longer require a desktop wallet to start your FluxNode. You can actually do it all from a mobile wallet if that's your preference. Next, come on over to runonflux.io, where you can learn everything you want to know about Web 3.0 and the Flux ecosystem. And under the ecosystem menu here, just click on FluxNodes. And this is where you'll learn everything you need to know about the FluxNode setup. And what I really want to highlight here are the hardware requirements, because we're going to need to take this into account when we rent a VPS or build a machine that'll run this particular node. So there are three tiers: the Cumulus, Nimbus, and Stratus. Stratus being the top dog. It'll require the highest amount of Flux collateral, but also the highest hardware requirements. So for the example, I'm going to be using a Cumulus with a 10,000 Flux stake. That means that I'll need to provide 2 virtual cores, 4 gigs of RAM, 50 gigs of SSD, and 2.5 terabytes of bandwidth. So this is something to keep in mind when making your decision for what type of node. You have to make sure that you meet these minimum hardware requirements. If you do not, then the node will be kicked off the network and you won't be earning any rewards. So this is very strict. There's a benchmarking app that runs routinely on the nodes to ensure that they meet these minimum requirements. And from here, you can click on the FluxNode setup guide, and that will take you to this article by Ali, who did a fantastic job detailing step-by-step what you need to do in order to get your collateral, get it staked in the Zelcore wallet, set up your FluxNode, and install FluxOS, and then start the node. I'm not going to go through this entire article, but I'll provide it as a link in the description for anybody who wants to use it. It's fantastic. You're not going to have any trouble if you just follow this step-by-step. But for those who are a little bit more visual, I'm going to walk you through each of those steps, but do keep in mind that I am going to probably be skipping certain things, and that's really just to kind of keep this video as short and concise as I can, okay? One thing I do want to highlight here is the block reward distribution, just so everybody's familiar with this. Flux is a proof of work blockchain that is mined by GPU. And 50% of the block reward goes to the mining operations side of things. That's the base layer. But we also have a second layer to the network, which ties into the base layer, and that is the node level, or the node layer. And there are 3 different tiers of nodes here, the Cumulus, Nimbus, and Stratus nodes, that all receive different portions of the block reward. The remaining 50% is divided for those 3 tiers. And we broke it down as such. You can see the Cumulus receives 5.625 Flux. the Nimbus 9.375 flux, and the Stratus 22.5 flux. And the way each of these tiers is set up, as soon as your node is confirmed on the network, it's added to a list of nodes that are eligible to receive a reward, and that list is a first come first served list. So let's say there are 1,000 Cumulus nodes on the network, and your node is confirmed at number 1001, so that's added to the bottom of the list. And the one at the top of the list is the next one in line to earn the next block reward. So as soon as the proof of work miners complete a block and receive that reward, it is distributed, and so that Cumulus, who's at the top of the list, receives the 5.625 flux and then goes to the bottom of the list. And from there, the whole list shifts up one, and that happens every approximately 2 minutes. So you can do the math on that for how long it would take you to earn a reward on a Cumulus node. It does seem that you would get one roughly every day and a half or so at this point. And again, that will all be adjusted depending on the number of nodes in that particular tier. And it's the same for Nimbus and Stratus, right? So let's say there's, I don't know, 500 Nimbus nodes on the network. Well, in that case, then you'll be receiving payouts a little bit more frequently because there's only 500 to cycle through, okay? And the same goes for the Stratus. So I just wanted to highlight that briefly so that everybody would understand when they would be receiving their reward. If you'd like to go into a little bit more economic data, you can check out any Flux front end. Go to the dashboard and the economics tab here, and that will pull up this little screen which will give you calculated information for each of the node tiers. This is right now at the current price of $1.68 US. And that will show you each tier what you can expect to bring in daily, weekly, or monthly. So in this case, we're right around $243.88 US on a Cumulus node, $571 US on a Nimbus, and a little under $2,400 US on a Stratus. That's for the monthlies. Do notice that the Nimbus and the Stratus both have the option for KDA rewards. So this is additional incentive that you can consider as a FluxNode operator. You can run certain applications on your node locally that will earn you additional crypto. So in the case of KDA, the partnership between Flux and KDA, they are running chain web nodes and chain web data nodes on the Flux network. So for the node operators who do that, they are earning KDA on top of Flux. Now it's time to get the Zelcore wallet set up, and I've installed the desktop version here. You could pretty much do the same thing from the mobile version as well, but I'm going to use the desktop version so it's easier for you to see. And we'll need to choose one of our wallets here for our node payouts, and you can customize these if you like. So for instance, where it says scholarships, if I click the little pencil over here, then I can change this to something like nodes and click save. And then I can click on my nodes wallet. And in here, we're going to need to add the Flux wallet. So click on manage assets, add assets, and then click on Flux up here at the top. Then exit out of this. And to see your Flux wallet, you have to click the little show zero balance. There we go. And now we have our Flux wallet. Click on the Flux wallet, and that will give us all the details here. So this is nice. It gives you all of the charting and everything. But it's a completely brand new wallet, right? So what we'd have to do is purchase some Flux and send it into this wallet. So where do you get Flux? There's a few options that the team recommends. We have Coin Metro, we have KuCoin, there's Gate.io, and many more options beyond this. But for all intents and purposes, probably one of the better options right now, if you ask me, because I live in the US, or maybe if you live in the EU, is Coin Metro, because you can purchase Flux directly with USD or euros. So that's a really cool option. And when you're purchasing Flux, I would recommend purchasing a little more than you would need for the node, just to cover fees. Because right here, for 10,025 Flux, my fees would be 10 Flux for this transaction, but there will also be fees to withdraw that Flux from the exchange. All right, so you want to kind of factor that in. I would probably recommend, once you purchase your Flux, withdrawing the exact amount you need for your collateral. That will make things a little easier, and that way you won't have to be sending it back and forth within Zelcore. So get your exact collateral amount and then send that as one transaction out of your exchange into Zelcore. How do you do that? Well, just go back here to Zelcore and click on the Receive button, and then click on your address here. All right, and then inside the exchange, go to the Withdrawal tab for that particular wallet for your Flux. Put in this address as the send to address or the withdrawal address, and put the exact amount, 10,000 Flux, and then hit send. Now, if you would like to send yourself Flux within Zelcore, like let's say I have already some Flux in my payments wallet here, I can click on the Flux wallet there. And then from here, it's super easy. You just click on send. And then for destination address, you can click the little down arrow here and choose my node wallet. All right, so it automatically pulled my node address there, and then put in the amount of exactly 10.00. There we go, 10,000 for the Cumulus node. And I'm going to put it on fast just to make sure it gets there quick. And then hit send. And then confirm it with yes, send. Okay, transaction sent. Now we can go back to our nodes wallet. Click on our Flux wallet there. And just give it a minute for that transaction to pop up. There it is. All right, and notice if I click the down arrow here, we have 0 confirmations. We need to get that number to 100. Now that you've got your Flux collateral staked in the Zelcore wallet, we have to wait for 100 confirmations before we can use that collateral for one of the nodes. So that's going to take some time. In the meantime, we need to set up our VPS, our virtual private server. And this is one option. Of course, you can also build your own machine if you want to run a server from home or from your office. Just make sure that your ISP is giving you proper bandwidth for that server, and make sure that your hardware specs are going to meet the minimum requirement for each node tier. There are, once again, since we're focusing on the Cumulus node, this is just a brief overview of what you would need as minimums, but for our case, we're going to be looking for 2 virtual cores, 4 gigs of RAM, and 50 gigs of SSD space, along with 2.5 terabytes of bandwidth. Now, there are a lot of different service providers that you can choose from to rent a VPS, and that's definitely a viable option. So if you want to look through this article, there are a bunch here, and Ali has highlighted the ones that would work best for the different tiers. There are so many different places. You just have to go with what works for you, find out what's the best price, all of that kind of stuff. For me, personally, I still like to use Contabo. I've been working with this company now for several years, and they were in Germany, and they've also expanded into the US. So they have data centers here on the East Coast and in the Midwest. So I find that they are still very competitive, and the servers they provide are just fine for what I need them for. And in the case of a Cumulus node, we'd be looking at the VPS S at $6.99 a month. If you're going to look at other tiers on Contabo, I'd recommend the VPS L for the Nimbus node. Once again, going with the SSD on that. And then the VPS XL for the Stratus node. And again, you'll need to use the SSD, but they're giving you 1.6 terabytes. It's insane. I mean, that's just, imagine that, guys. It's like, it's more than what you would have in an average laptop online at your disposal. So very cool. I think a very reasonable price. To set one of these up is very basic. You hit the select button here under which tier you'd like to purchase. And once that pulls up, then we'll go ahead and set up our prepayment discount. So I like to go with the 12-month setup. I think that makes sense. Pay for it annually rather than pay for it monthly. But if you want to go month to month, that's totally up to you. Here we go in the United States. They also have a West Coast server too. So if you want to do West Coast, I'm going to stick with Central. And then storage type, we're going to set that up for the 200 gigabyte SSD, which is nice, a good amount of storage online. We want our image, which is the operating system that's going to be installed there. We want our image to be Ubuntu 20.04. This is the one that is best for FluxOS, okay? 20.04. As for networking, that's all good. All we need is a single IP address, and we don't really need any of the add-ons here. So then you can go ahead and click on Next, and it will ask you or some of your details. Okay, so plug in your details, set it up however you want, and you can see our payment here would be $76.88. Once you've made your purchase, and this will pretty much be the case for most VPS providers, they will send you an email with the root login password and the IP address for your node. All right, so once you get that, then you're going to need to use a program like Putty or Xterm. If you're using Windows, download that and then set it up so that you can log into your node via SSH. And once you've got that connection made, then you can start installing the Flux software. I'll show you how to do that next. And now for the most intimidating part of the entire process. Well, that is for those who are not really familiar with Linux. Once you create your VPS and your provider sends you an email, they're going to give you the login information for your VPS, and that will include the IP address and the password to get in there, okay? What they give you is the root password. The root password is the main account for the Ubuntu installation that they put on your node, okay? And so what we're going to do is use our favorite terminal program. And in my case, I'll be using Linux, so it's a little bit easier when you're running Linux to do this. You just run a program from the terminal called SSH space root at, and then you put in the IP address for your node, which you can copy right from your email. Hit enter, and then it will ask you for a password. So what you can do is type in your password here, and you can use Control-Shift-V to paste it in. Hit enter, and that will welcome you into your node. And from the very top, we can see which version of Ubuntu we are running, 20.04.02, which is the LTS, long-term support version. That's another reason why we like this version, because it is supported for a number of years. And one of the first things you'll want to do from here is install updates on this node, making sure that it is completely up to date. So to do that, we're going to type in the following command, apt space update. Enter. And that will search through all of the different repositories to make sure that we have the latest versions of all the different repos. Okay, it says 108 packages can be upgraded. So what we'll need to do then is type apt space upgrade space -y and hit enter. The -y means to say yes to any prompts that pop up. And we know that we definitely want to install all of the latest updates here, so we're going to say -y. That means yes to everything. This is Editor Goose. We have to add one more command, so go ahead and type this one in. apt space install space curl, that's curl, space npm, and hit enter. Great, when that's done, then we can go ahead and plug in another command from the Medium post. So I'm going to flip back over there. And this is the multi-toolbox script that's used to install our FluxNode. So when you get to this number 14 on the list, so just scroll down here, actually number 15, which is Docker install. And right here where it says start with executing right here, bash-i curl, select this entire command here and copy that. And then here, paste it in. And if you're using Windows, like if you're using PuTTY, you would just right click and that would paste the command in here. And then hit enter. What this does is download a copy of the script and then run it on your box. All right, so here we are, multi-toolbox version 5, and we need to start with step 1, which is install Docker. So hit number 1 and then enter. Okay. Now what we're doing with this process is creating a new username, which will be the one that runs all of the Flux operations. Okay, this is your username. Okay, we don't want to run anything as root. Root provides so many security vulnerabilities and whatnot, because if somebody were to hack into our box, they would be able to run any command that they want. Whereas if you are running as a user, you can limit what someone might be able to do if they were to hack your machine. Okay, so this is just an added security protection. Create a username. You can put whatever username you want. I'll just put in Cumulus because this is the type of node that we're using, and hit OK. All right, and now it is creating a new user called Cumulus, and now it's asking me for a password. So make sure you choose a strong password, whatever that may be. Hit enter, and then retype it to verify. All right, that's been created. It is once again double checking, make sure that all of our packages are up to date, and then installing Docker. After Docker is installed, it's going to ask you, would you like to switch to your user account? In this case, say yes. And then what it does is it switches you over to your Cumulus account. See, we just created this name right here, Cumulus. All right. But now we need to run that command once again to install the node. So the next step would be to, once again, paste that same exact script here and hit enter. All right. It's the same menu, but in this case, we're going to move to the next step, which is number 2, install FluxNode. So hit number 2 and then enter. All right, we need to enter our password for the Cumulus account that we just created. So I'm going to put that in. Okay, so for here it's asking if we're going to be using port 22 for SSH. We can leave that as the default, so say yes. It detected our IP address, and now it's going to install the packages for Flux. Now that the packages have been installed, it's time to configure the FluxNode. And right now it's asking for us to enter our FluxNode private key generated by Zelcore. So let's jump on over to Zelcore. And from here, we're going to go to the left-hand menu and click on Apps, and then click on FluxNodes. Okay, look at this. It says, added 1 FluxNodes to My FluxNodes. All right, so there it is in the My FluxNodes menu. And we're going to need to click this little down arrow, and then click on Edit. All right, from here, we're going to name this node. So let's go ahead and call it something like Cumulus 01. And then we're going to need to put in our IP address here. And that is going to be, you can copy this from the email that you received from your VPS provider. All right, there's that. Next is private key. Okay, so if you click this private key, it will copy it to your clipboard, and then you can jump back over here and paste it in. Now, if you're using PuTTY, just right-click and that will paste it, or if you're on Linux, Control-Shift-V will paste it. So there's that, and you can go down to OK. Now it's asking for your FluxNode collateral transaction ID. All right, so we'll jump back over to back over to Zelcore, and here, the next line down, collateral transaction ID. So just click on that, and jump back over, and go ahead and Control-Shift-V, paste that, go down to OK, and it's asking for the collateral output index. This will usually be a 0 or a 1, so we'll jump back over, and it looks like the output index is a 0. All right, so we'll put in a 0, down, and then OK. Okay, that took care of creating our Flux config file, and then it went ahead and installed a few other packages, and now we're installing the ZK snark parameters. Okay, I would recommend just choosing option number 1, which will take it from the latest build in the script file here. Go ahead and click on enter there, and this will just download that bootstrap file. Meanwhile, over on Zelcore, you can go ahead and click on save here, which will save all of your information on your FluxNode. And since this node status is offline, we will not be able to start it until we reach 100 confirmations. So do take note right here, my confirmations are at 2, and I'll have to wait for that to hit 100 before I can start it. There will be a little button that appears down in the bottom here once we reach 100, and once our node has been completely synced to the blockchain. So you're going to need a few hours here, but that's okay. And of course, we're getting our little warning message here now that we've added the node. It says that this is not confirmed. And you'll find that this is a helpful little alert message just in case one of your nodes goes down. At least you'll have some type of indication that something needs to be looked at in order to make sure that your node is up and running. All right, next question it asks is, do we want to remove the archive file? It's really up to you. I don't think it hurts to save it, but you decide. All right. Is the FluxNode being installed on a VPS? Yes. Okay, so now it's asking us for our Zel ID from Zelcore. And this is really important because this is how your node will know that you are the admin for the node. So whenever you want to install a local app or access your Zel share, stuff like that, you'll need to log into your node using your Zel ID. So let's hop over to Zelcore. And from here, I'm going to jump on over to the apps button and then click on Zel ID. And right here at the bottom of the screen, it has a QR code, and then there's a little address underneath there. So you can just click that address and then jump back over here and either right click or Control-Shift-V that down and enter. Are you planning to run Cadena node? It says that you can only do this if you are a Nimbus or a Stratus node. So you'll have to make that determination based on what type of node you're installing. Since we are not running a Nimbus or a Stratus node, I will say no. Okay, Flux version 3.0.2 is installed, which is the current version. And it's going through the process of syncing to the blockchain. All right, and after installing a few more packages, it goes on to syncing the blockchain. There are still a few more blocks outstanding here, so it's downloading the rest of those. Just be patient with this process. It may take a few more minutes depending on your connection speed. Would you like to enable alert notification? Now, you can do this if you want to have alerts on your Discord server or something like that. I am not going to do that, but it will walk you through that process. What you'll find throughout this entire process of installing a FluxNode is that there are like multiple pauses in the installation, and that would be either to download something, extract something, install a package, configure something, sync the blockchain. Like all these different processes are happening, and they have to be completed before we can actually start the Flux node. So in this case now we are at the point where they just restarted the benchmarks, and that will test the CPU and the memory as well as the SSD speed to make sure everything is where it needs to be in order to qualify as a Cumulus node. And of course, that ran by so fast. Let me scroll back up here real quick. I just want you to see what the benchmarks gave us. See what this says right here? Flux benchmarks Cumulus. The status is Cumulus. So we passed the benchmarks as a Cumulus. We've got 2 cores on this machine, 3.8 gigs of RAM. And I've got 300 on my SSD speed, which is great. All right, so here it says the FluxNode installation is completed. And there are a bunch of commands that we have that we could use to monitor the node. Little things like if you want to start your Flux daemon, this would be the command that you type in. If you want to stop the Flux daemon, you could type this. If you're looking for help, you would type that. All right, these are some of the commands that you should probably copy down just in case you need to do some type of troubleshooting on your node or whatever. But for right now, it's safe to say that everything is installed as it needs to be. So what's next? Okay, next is to copy this IP address and port number here. And we're going to paste that into our browser and log into Flux for the first time. So let's jump on over here. And I'm going to put that right here. Okay. It says here Flux is up to date. That's great news. That means we're running the latest version of Flux, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. And now all we need to do is log in using ZelID. And there's a couple ways you can do this. If you're on Windows, just click the ZelID button here, and this will ask to open a link, and that will pop open Zelcore. And then from here, what you would do is just sign your message, and that would log you in. Since I'm on Linux and it's kind of buggy, it is what it is. I'm going to refresh this page, and I'm going to take this message right here and copy that. Click on sign message, and then put that message in the message sign box here, and click sign. All right, now I need 2 pieces of information. First, I need my signing address, so I'm going to click that. That's my ZelID. I'm going to pop back over here and put address ZelID right there. And then where it says signature, I'm going to go back and I'll click this one on the bottom here, copy that signature, paste that in, and click login. All right, successfully logged in. Okay, it's a lot smoother on Windows. It's just, this is my particular Linux setup, and it's okay. There's always a workaround, but I figure I'll show you that more detailed version just in case you're running Linux too. But on Mac OS and Windows, all you have to do is click the ZelID button, and it'll pull up Zelcore. You go ahead and sign your transaction, and it logs you in automatically, which is great. All right, so that being said, it says right here under status, Flux is not confirmed. Flux is running with limited capabilities. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, we still have to hit the start button using Zelcore. And so let me go over here to Zelcore and cancel this out and close that down. And I'm going to jump back over here to where it says apps, click on Flux nodes. And down here where it says My Flux Nodes, you can click the down arrow. We can check the confirmations are at 24, and they need to be 100. So once that reaches 100, a little button will appear down in the bottom where we can then start our node. So we'll just give that a little time and come back when it's ready. Now, if you look at the My Flux Nodes section here, if we hit the down arrow, we have a start button here. So let's go ahead and click that. And this is going to give us a little message to let you know that you have to make sure that your node meets the minimum benchmarking requirements. Otherwise, when you try to start the node, if it doesn't meet the minimum benchmark, then that will put you on the denial of service list, and you will not be eligible to receive rewards. So let's just double check that real quick. on our node. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page here. And where it says benchmark on the left-hand side, you click that. And then where it says benchmarks, you click that. And then get status. All right, the status, we're online. We're benchmarking is a Cumulus. And our Flux is connected. So everything looks good there. That means I am good to start this node. So let me go ahead and jump back over to Zelcore and click on Start FluxNode. Okay, successfully started FluxNode Cumulus 01. Now on this window, it says that the FluxNode is starting, and it will check the status of the node every minute from now on. So you can let this sit here, or you can go over to your Flux instance. So if we go to the Flux front end over here, click on the Home button, we can check to see where the status is. Right now it still says Flux is not confirmed, but once we have one block mined, then this will change to started. So let's wait for that. All right, now that we've got one confirmation, our status has changed to Flux has just been started, and we'll need to wait for a few more confirmations for it to be confirmed by the network. And when we check back on Zelcore, we can see our status here also says started. And after a few more blocks being confirmed, our Flux node is now working correctly. This is the final status that you want. And now your node is on the list to begin receiving rewards. Now that we have our node set up using the desktop wallet, let's jump on over to the mobile wallet and get everything synced up there. This way you can monitor your nodes from your mobile device. So from the main screen here, I'm just going to scroll down to the wallet that we used for our collateral, which was the bottom one here, which says scholarship. But remember, we changed the name of that over to nodes. So I'm just going to go ahead and click this and change that to nodes. There we go. Save it. Okay, now I'll click on that. And just like before, we have to add the Flux wallet to this wallet. So let's click on Manage Assets, Add Assets, and then Add Flux. All right, we can close this out. And now that we have our Flux wallet added here, if you click on it, you'll see your balance and everything. And in this case, we have exactly 10,000 Flux there. What we want to do is add this to the FluxNode's app. So at the bottom of the screen is the little app icon. So we'll go ahead and click that. And then scroll down to FluxNodes. And here it says one FluxNodes was added to my FluxNodes. And what's nice doing it this way is that once your node is confirmed, it will fill in all of the details for you. All you have to do is name your node. So click on the little down arrow here, and we'll scroll to the bottom and click on Edit. And then at the top there, you can go ahead and name your node whatever you want. I'll just call it Cumulus 01. Scroll down and save. And now, if you scroll up a little bit, we'll see we have a name for it here. If you don't name your node, you won't get the updates in case something happens. So if there's an alert that needs to come through, if your node is not confirmed, you'll have to have a name in there. But once you have it, you're good to go. And as you can see, our status is confirmed. So as you continue to earn rewards with this node, you'll be able to track those rewards in the bottom of the app here, which will give you your daily, weekly, and monthly reward totals. So it'll be a great way to keep track of what you're earning running a Flux node. And that concludes our setup process for a Flux node. So we've gone through all of the details, getting Flux on an exchange, staking the collateral in your Zelcore wallet, installing a VPS server with Ubuntu 20.04, installing the Flux OS on that server, syncing it with our Zelcore wallet by putting in our IP address and our wallet key and everything else, and then waiting for everything to confirm so that we can start the node. Once we start the node, we're up and running, guys. So If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. I hope the video was helpful. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and check the description below for any more notes that may be helpful. In the meantime, keep on fluxing, and we'll see you in the next video.